The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
We are welcoming to the show our very special friend, Lisa Ackerman. She is the founder of TACA, the Autism Community in Action, and we need her today. Let me say good morning and welcome, Lisa, and I'm excited to have you here. But let me also just very quickly say that we are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and about a dozen other sites. If you are watching us live and want to be a part of the conversation, please write in, especially on those platforms I just mentioned. We will be able to see your comments in real time. You can also write to us at autism-live.com. And for those of you who don't know, we are also live now on autismnetwork.com. So why are we here? Why is Lisa here? Because there is a new report that has come out from the CDC. And so Lisa, there's no one better, in my opinion, to be here with us to help us to sort through what's happening and what isn't happening and to understand things. So Lisa, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for being a great resource. And my goodness, I wish I paid more attention in math and statistics back in high school and college. But I'm going to do my best to give my take monitoring these 10 surveys for the last 20 years.
Okay. Well, but there is a new report, and perhaps we should start there. And I think the question that is on all of our lips the last few days is, what exactly does the new report say?
Well, thanks. Let's clear it up, because you wouldn't know in the news what's being said. And really, this is a great opportunity to share a take, because I've been studying this information since inception and since my son was diagnosed in 1999. And I have my notes, so excuse me why I refer to them, because I want to get it right. The Autism and Developmental Disabilities Monitoring Network, so ADAM for short, was called into action by the CDC in 2000. What looked to be experiencing what they thought was a rapid increase in autism. And that was in the 90s. So they calculated their first report in the 1970s and the 1980s. They believed autism was 1 to 2 in every 10,000. And their first report, they found a dramatic increase. This report is no different. The 2021 data and collected is now demonstrating 1 in 44 US children have autism.
I think it took everybody's breath away when it came out the other day. It feels like, though, as we filtered through, there's a lot to be unpacked. And I don't know where to start. So because I always say, let's ask brighter minds. And guess what? I know for sure that you're a brighter mind than I am. So can you start to unpack this for us? What are the key findings? Obviously, I feel like, it's almost like we have to have a moment of silence for that 1 in 44, right? But can we dig deeper? What are the key findings here?
Yeah, and really, I'll just break it down. And I'm still going through it. Me and my team are still going through it. The CDC has a great website with some additional information, but there's nuances to this report that I really think are important. 1, in the 10 surveys, 8 have had an increase. This increase of this report from the last one is 23% higher. And
we've got a graph, right? Lisa,
correct.
is it time to show the graph?
Yeah. And it's roughly a 241% increase since they started looking at the data. What is astounding, and it's not just because I'm from California, but in California, 4-year-olds is 1 in 24, 8-year-olds in the surveys, 1 in 26. Overall, 2.3% of 8-year-old children are diagnosed with autism. California is the highest prevalence in the 11 surveyed sites, surpassing the previous leading state, New Jersey. And overall, the prevalence rates are similar across race and ethnicity, with the following exceptions. American Indians and Alaskan Native children have a higher rate of autism prevalence over white children. And in the multi-survey sites, Hispanic children have a lower ASD prevalence rates over whites and Black children. But there are consistent findings. Boys are still 4 times more common diagnosed with autism than girls. And that chart is just astounding. So those are some of the key things, and we're unpacking a lot more data. To be honest, we had a family event. We've been doing a lot of things since this report, but our goal is to get this message out and unpack more additional highlights. So thank you.
And I thank you. And it's almost like it's so much to take in, right?
Yeah.
That for me, it's like there's the emotional response and then there's the intellectual response and everything in between, right? And it gets complicated. I feel like part of the thing that's hard about this is that when we're looking at these numbers, we need to have an understanding of what the data is that's collected, what time periods, how is this information shared? So talk to us a little bit about all of that.
Great. I have a chart that I'd like to share that makes this process of understanding complex data easier. And the chart is with regards to the autism prevalence, and it's looking, from 2000 to 2018, which is the survey year. So let's look at the first column on the left. That's the birth year for each survey. The survey year is when they started the survey, and the year reported was when the data came out. So I really want to take a pause for a moment. So they looked at 2010 birth year data, and the survey year was 2018, and it took 3 years to report it, the 1 in 44 living with autism. So there are many kids that are currently not counted. If you think about it, a lot of kids born after 2010 that aren't in this number. But it's a survey, and the survey only looks at 11 states at 8-year-olds and a separate methodology for 4-year-olds. The low in the survey was 1 in 60 in Missouri, and the high in the survey was 1 in 26. And this chart just gives us a better way of looking at the overall findings. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it takes a minute. The first time that you explained this on the show, and I looked at it and I could see where my son came in, because look at the birth year, you guys. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to make it personal. What year did the person that you love on the spectrum, what year were they born? Are they on this chart? Are they represented on this chart? And then look at the year in which they surveyed those individuals, and then the year that it's reported. And I think then it becomes personal. Because I remember the first time that I really started to understand and that there was this chart. My son was 4 years old, and I saw that the number was going up, and I saw that he wasn't included on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it was like, oh, they're not even, and you begin to understand that even now, I think I understand this because I've talked to you before, but knowing that this year, the reports that we're looking at are from the year 2018 still takes my breath away, Lisa.
Yeah, and I'm not going to beat on the good, fine people that do this survey work, because it's pretty rigorous what they do. There's other things that I would like to see, and I would like priority and more financial support in every aspect of the world of autism. So I don't want to beat on the people, but I don't want to
beat on them either. I think it takes how long it takes, but I think the reality that we're like, 1 in 44 or 1 in 26. But the reality is, if your kid isn't even being counted yet, that in a couple of years, this number might be even worse.
Yeah.
Well, is what I think we all feel.
It's definitely on that trend. And we know based on the current annual cost of autism is $223 billion per year. And we're projecting the annual cost to be $589 billion by 2030.
Yeah.
So, and really my goal in coming on today, one, it's sobering. It's an important report. We should go with facts. And I'm hoping families, friends in our community can have a better understanding of those facts. So we stay based in facts.
Absolutely. And thank you for reminding us to do that. And I think that this graphic that you've supplied us with, it's really because for those of us who love someone on the spectrum, this isn't the big thing for us, right? But sometimes when you're talking to family members who are saying, you know, why is this such a big deal? Why should this matter to everyone? This is a great leveler. I don't think that people stop and consider that the impact on if you're childless and you work in a field that has nothing to do with education or anything else, this still has an impact on you, and it's a big one. And we know that money talks, right? So thank you for sharing this. It's an important statistic. I want to talk with you a little bit, Lisa, about how this report is being covered in the media, and some of the things that media are saying, and what I want to get the facts, but also your opinion about what's happening, and what would you like to say? We're hearing a lot of, oh, well, it's just better awareness, and other things as well. Saying, oh, well, it's because there's more services available. I don't understand that. Are they saying that cancer is more prevalent because they built more hospitals? I don't even understand that rationale, Lisa. Help me to understand the data and what the media should be saying.
You know, it breaks my heart to use those two as excuses. So let me just break it down. So we serve over 75,000 families. We offer thousands of incidents of support. The most common issue families are facing today are access to services and treatments and therapies. And thanks to the pandemic, there's a staffing shortage across the United States. And currently, McDonald's is having trouble hiring. And McDonald's is paying people more than our therapy and service providers. They should be paid in gold 20 times what they're paid. But people can get more money working at McDonald's than working with the complex case of a child with autism to help define what their needs are and provide that level of support. So to say there's a wider availability of service is a complete, unsubstantiated, it's like saying, you know, water isn't wet and we should just not talk about wet water anymore because it's not wet. To me, it's a complete opposite finding to what families are experiencing. And further, the awareness. Let's talk about awareness. It's really hard to miss a child with autism on the playground or at the school or at the grocery store. And to say awareness is an example of the increase is an insult to the experts diagnosing autism for decades. And it's an insult to our school district employees that help point out issues when they see them. I really wish when a big study takes 3 years to report the prevalence and come out with data, and it takes so much time and effort to share that information, rather than sharing a feeling, we should back it up with facts. So I want the people saying it's a wider availability of service or a better awareness of autism to please back it up with a study and support that and substantiate that information. So I just want to hit one other thing that I think is really important. Where were all these kids before? Were we just ignoring them before? Because that's even worse, okay? So, but I also want to just counteract a few things. Show me where the 1 in 44 30-year-olds are, or the 1 in 44 40-year-olds, or the 1 in 44 50-year-olds, or the 1 in 44 60-year-olds, because they don't exist. We're not seeing the same rate of disability. Now, granted, I would say 95% of the families we serve, and I don't have a study on it, so this is an estimate and an editorial, have a significant disability and require therapeutics and treatments. About 5% of who we serve, you know, are walking amongst us, have jobs, and are just an inspiration, like Temple Grandin and my son. But most of the people living with autism that we are aware of have significant needs, a significant disability, and we should no longer share excuses. We should share support. So I really, really appreciate you asking that question, because I think there's more to be done here, and there's more respect that we can apply on a very rapidly increasing diagnosis to a disability.
There we go. And so in this world where we have so many resources, and now more than ever, what data do you wish were, and what data would you like to demand be included in the future?
I think if you care about a disability, you should care enough to count. We do that across multiple disabilities, and I think a census is in order. And the level of census should be similar to how we do our census every 10 years. What's the severity? What are the needs? What are the ages? We are operating with so many myths, and really what we need and should demand is a full census. And that data is available through health insurance data, school district data, and even homeschool data. But first and foremost, we need to care enough to count. So that's what I dream. I would like a census, please, if I could.
And so you're calling for everyone to be counted instead of, right? Because as you explained in the beginning, and as I try to understand, right now they're only looking at, is it 11 hot spots, and counting those 11 and saying, we think that this applies to everybody. But I noticed that one of the things that this is the first time in all of these years that they've counted California. And what did we find? That in California, it was the highest of all. What if there's a space that they're not looking where it's even higher? Have we even thought of that?
Yeah. And, and again, I try to go with fact. I have a lot of feelings, and they involve 4-letter words, and I'm going to keep it clean today. And I'm not going to cry. And I'm
not on our account, I hope.
Right. I'm just going to kind of keep it together, because there's more questions than answers. And the Mind Institute did a great study in 2009 that showed the state of California wasn't doing a better job counting. And it wasn't because of migration. It was simply because there were more children. I would love to see a follow-up study from the Mind Institute going, now over 10 years later. Are those findings the same? So that study was done in 2009, and a great one. I refer to it often. And we can make excuses, but I think we need to start making answers.
There you go. And of course, that leads me to my next thing, that a lot of times when we talk about these kinds of things, I think, like a lot of people, I start to feel overwhelmed. Like it's more than I know what to do with. And I know in my life, and I have friends that feel the same way, it feels like action, taking some sort of action, small or large, is what helps de-stress and make us feel like we're going in a direction. So help us here. What can parents, what can caregivers, what can the community do? What's our call to action, Lisa?
Well, one, first and foremost, take care of their kids, love your family, love your kids, and live for the beautiful things that are going to happen and the accomplishments that are going to take place with your family and your child. But to be aware of the facts, we're living with autism. We should know the rate, where it comes from, and maybe rewatch this story on Autism Live, or go to the Taka About Autism page and make sure when you're quoting things accurately. But I would recommend we need to combat the widening of services, available services, and the better awareness. I think I would love if families could share their personal story when a news story is aired, and share their personal feelings. Like, it's hard for us to get services. It's hard for us to get the support and therapeutics that my child needs. It's not a better awareness. The gentleman or woman that diagnosed my son or my daughter has been diagnosing for decades, and they have a backlog. It's hard to get in for services. It's hard to get in for a diagnosis. My local hospital is almost a 2-year wait list thanks to the pandemic. Prior to that was 9 to 12 months. So I feel like families could do a great justice for getting their story out, letting their story be heard, and sharing what they're feeling. So if you hear your local news story, share its better awareness or better diagnostics. Write a letter to the editor, share something. And there's been Dr. Walter Zaharodny out of Rutgers University, who's my personal hero. He's been behind the CDC ATOM number since inception. If we can get him on the news and talking to, any U.S. news, Channel 7, Channel 9, you pick it, it would be great to feature the expert that's been counting these figures for decades. And he is an expert like no other. And definitely, I bow down to him for his expertise. So I think whenever we see a mistruth, the best thing we can do is know what the truth is and do our best to share that truth and the facts behind the numbers. So if we could do that together as a community, we're doing better.
Thank you. And please, if that doctor would like to come on here, there's always an open spot. I realize we are not Channel 7, but we always have an open spot here for him. Lisa, I would love it if you would take just a minute for anybody who is not familiar with what TACA is. I'm going to give you like 3 minutes here to do a full TACA commercial.
Okay.
Somebody is watching and they have is before.
So we're families living with autism, helping families living with autism. For the folks that don't need our support and services and live with autism, God bless you. I'm glad you don't need our help and services, but for the families that do, navigating their autism journey, we do quite a few things. We provide meetings across the United States. We do them virtually and in person. We hold annual conferences that help provide the latest and greatest on therapies and medical treatments and science. We have a mentor program that's Match.com without the dating that connects you to a parent that can help you navigate your journey. We have events such as family events and outreach that we do. We provide webinars which allow people to do Q&A with the top resources in the community. We have a website that's being accessed by almost 3 million unique visitors annually. We have an autism journey guide we give out for free, roughly 200 pages. We have a scholarship program that helps meet the needs between what people can afford and what they need. And we provide empowerment and support. So for me, it's all about taking action. Our goal, we have one simple goal, that every individual with autism leads an independent and healthy life. That's all we want. Happy, healthy people.
Which is an incredible thing. And it's very fitting that it is the holiday time and that you brought up the scholarships. And I always get emotional at this time of year. Whenever people, I see I'm already going to cry. Whenever people talk to me about what makes me feel like it is the holidays. Like, what is the, if I was going to write the Hallmark movie from my life, right? And there's never a Hallmark movie without a conflict, okay? I know, because I'm a Hallmark fan. I watch and I'm not kidding, all of them. But the Christmas that will always be the Christmas that means the most to me was the Christmas after my son was diagnosed. And when I tell you guys that it's important to me to be here for all of you, because I know that sometimes it's hard. That Christmas, I had that moment. It was like this week, the beginning of December, and I sat down to look at how much money was in the checking account and how much money needed to go out the door for the month, and what were the extra things. And at that point, my son was on a probiotic that was pretty expensive, but it was helping him. And I sat there and I was like, well, where are my tissues?
You're getting me.
I sat there and I knew that there wasn't enough money to pay rent on the first of the year, to buy his medicine, have a special dinner for Christmas, because it costs more for Christmas dinner, and to pay for my son's medication and a toy. That was the other thing. I wanted to get him a toy. Everybody wants to get their child a toy, right? And I knew that there wasn't enough money to do all that rent had to be paid. And then I was like looking at the other things and saying, I don't have enough money to buy my child a toy, buy his medicine, and buy Christmas dinner. I might be able to do one of them. There's no way I'm going to be able to do two, and all three can't happen. And I felt like a failure, because how could I, as a mom, have concocted a life and brought a child into this world who had special needs and not have made sure that I had enough money to cover all that stuff? I'm just being honest here. I felt like it was the end of the world. I was on the phone with a friend crying, and I said, I don't know what to do. And she said, order the medicine. And I said, did you hear me? I don't know that we have enough money to do whatever. She said, order the medicine and it'll work out. And two things happened. As soon as I ordered the medicine, I got a thing in my email, like within 30 seconds, that was from Taka that said, do you need help this holiday season? And I am not one to ask for help, like many of you. It's just not in my nature, right? And I thought, like many of you write into me all the time, I felt like it was my responsibility, and that if I couldn't take care of it, I was a failure. But I read the letter from Taka that was from you, Lisa, and you were saying, don't be afraid to ask for help. And I asked for help, and the most amazing thing happened. A Taka family, and you guys paid 1 month, 2 months of his medication. And the family, they not only gave my son a gift, but they insisted on giving gifts to my husband and I. We had not had gifts for 2 Christmases because, you let that go. That wasn't even on the list, right?
Yeah.
And I begged them not to give us a gift, but it ended up being so meaningful, so meaningful. We just wept, and it truly felt like It's a Wonderful Life, where we were reminded of what was important. And I remember sitting there that Christmas and saying to my husband, we need to make sure that we pay this forward. Now, as soon as we could, we started doing a Sensitive Santa event that we're still doing, where we give away hundreds of toys every year. And it's because of the inspiration that you gave us, that there are people out there who need help and support. So, I can't thank you enough. Sometime I got to write that Hallmark movie. But it filled me with a sense of what I think the holidays, whichever holiday you celebrate, they're all about light. All of them have the same thing in common. They're all about light. And you brought a light into our world to show us that we weren't alone. I will always be indebted to you for that, Lisa. Always, always, always. What you guys do at Taka is absolutely amazing. And I'm so proud to know you. And people are writing in saying, woohoo, yes, Taka, promoting health for our kids, hearts and things. Light for our families. And that is what you have been, Lisa. You have been light for our families. You continue to do that. Even while you were taking care of your family. That's no small thing.
Well, that's a very, you always kill me with that story. And I'm so glad we were there for you. And, we've shifted to putting a lot of resources and scholarships for medical care and taking care of medical necessities like your kids' medicine that you can afford. For families, I've always been about the underdog. I've always, when somebody was being bullied in school, I tried to help. Talk is now a great team of staff and volunteers and a fabulous board and ambassador group that really cares. And they're very driven to help meet the needs of families living with autism. And our life's work is to really, like I said earlier, get our kids to healthy, independent adults. And the prognosis that we're given at diagnosis needs to change. When they say that your kid will never do these things and be placed in an institution, you should start looking when they're 4 years old is a heartbreak. We should invest in the future of these individuals that can lead a bright, healthy, independent life. And that's what I would like to see change. I'm going to
Amen to
continue to doing this work with TACA and continuing to help the families that need us and the individuals that need us so we can drive the best possible outcomes versus the worst case prognosis that's given a lot of people a diagnosis. So if I can change one thing, I'd like to change about 20, but that's starting there.
There
That
we go.
a diagnosis is not game over, it's game on. And let's make sure we do the best we can do to help each individual meet their milestones and have a quality of life.
Thanks for watching Autism Live. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.